Aloha and good day. My name is Dr. Virginia Hatch-Pigott, and this presentation is on health. My body, his temple, building a healthy life. This was given at the Oasis Church Women's Gathering on March 22nd, 2025. I was honored and privileged to share this with the women there, and I felt led to share this with other people. So enjoy. All right. So, this concept of health and using a temple to personify or use an analogy is not my own. But everything I am going to present affiliated with this is my own and from my own experience. I've had the privilege of watching people grow from infants in women's arms to young men and women with infants in their arms. I've raised my own children, and I've raised children who were born to other women. I've walked some rough roads on my own, and I've walked some rough roads with Jesus. I've watched others walk rough roads on their own, and I've watched others walk rough roads with Jesus. I'm not a theologian, and I've not been to Bible college, but what I am going to talk to you about today is from my own medical education, observing the thousands of people who've allowed me to be a part of their lives as a pediatrician, my own personal experiences, and my own time in the refiner's fire. I can say without a doubt, your spirituality or your worldview is the single most important aspect of your health. It is the literal foundation of your health. And I hope by the end of this talk, you will understand why. When we talk to people who are non-believers, more specifically atheists and agnostics, they will tell you they are not spiritual. So when I'm speaking to those individuals, and there may be some who are listening today, I'll use the term worldview because everyone has a worldview. It's simply how you view reality. Every single human during their lifetime, either in the privacy of their own mind or with friends and family, wrestles with the big questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? What's my purpose? Where am I going? And why is life so difficult? Why is there so much evil in the world? And why, if there is a God, is there so much suffering? Your worldview shapes the way you treat yourself and others. It dictates the way you interact with your environment and live in society. As Christians, we believe that the truth exists and is discoverable. Jesus said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." John 14:6. That means that Christians believe that the truth not only describes but determines the reality we live in, including what is moral and ethical. We believe that what is true can be found in the Bible. Atheists and agnostics believe something very different. In fact, it's the opposite. They believe that truth is relative and that individuals get to decide what is moral and ethical, which in turn determines what is true. Other religions, like the Hindu religion, are polytheists, and they believe in many gods and that truth cannot be encapsulated or even known. Buddhists believe that there is no God, nor is there even reality. All is an illusion. Other spiritual disciplines have other beliefs about reality, but that's beyond the scope of this talk. Today, I am just going to focus on what the Bible says about reality, because that's what I have come to know and believe. And I want to show you how that relates to our health. So let's really briefly answer those existential questions from a Christian perspective. Who or what am I? Genesis 1:27 through 28 says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image and likeness of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them and said to them, 'Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subjugate it and rule over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every living thing that moves upon the earth. That means each human is an image bearer of a holy God. Where did I come from? Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I have appointed you as a prophet to the nations." And Psalm 139:13 through 18 says, "For you formed my innermost parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I will give thanks and praise to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you. When I was being formed in secret and intricately and skillfully formed in the depths of the earth, your eyes have seen my unformed substance, and in your book were written all the days that were appointed for me, when as yet there was not one of them. How precious also are your thoughts for me, O God! How vast is the sum of them! They would outnumber the sand. When I awake, I am still with you." So, you are an image bearer of a holy God, and you were created by God. The next question is, what is my purpose? Ecclesiastes 12:13 says, "Now all has been heard, and here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind." And Micah 6:8 says, "He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and walk humbly with your God." Matthew 22:36 through 40 says, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" To which Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law of the prophets hang on these two commandments." So we can see our purpose is to love God and love others. That may look different based on the special gifts and talents that He's given each one of us, but that is the ultimate purpose for each one of us. And it also may look different in different stages of our lives. Where am I going? We can find an answer in Ecclesiastes 12:7, "And to dust returns to the ground where it came from, and the spirit returns to God who gave it." So we know that our bodies are mortal, and we all will face death one day, but our spirits are eternal. And if we place our hope and our trust and surrender ourselves to Jesus, to the God of the Bible, our spirits will live in eternity with Him. John 10:28 says, "I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand." 1 John 2:25 says, "And this is what He promised us, eternal life." So the next question is, if we are image bearers of a holy God and we're just supposed to love people, love God and love others, why is life so difficult? Ephesians 2:1 through 3 says, it points out that we have at least three enemies attacking us incessantly: our flesh, the world, and the devil. The flesh we can see that in 1 Peter 2:11, where it says, "The passions of our flesh wage war against our soul." This phrase refers to a long-term military campaign filled with relentless and malicious aggressions. John MacArthur calls this an internal civil war between our flesh and our spirit. The second reason is because of the world. 1 John 2:15 and 16 says, "Do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and the pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world." So some people are living out that civil war and losing the battle and living in the flesh. So they're in the world, and therefore we're going to experience difficulty because of these people. And then the third and final is the devil. 1 Peter 5:8 calls us to be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. So when non-believers ask you, do angels and demons really exist? Your answer is yes. And why? Why is there evil in the world? Why would God ever allow Satan to enter the world? This is our final question. The Bible teaches that Satan once dwelled with God, but rebelled against God and was thrown out of his kingdom in Isaiah 14:12. It describes him as the prince of the air, meaning that he rules this world. Further, Satan is the author of sin. So this is a good place to define sin, because that term is sort of, there's a lot of disdain and associated with it, but sin literally just means to miss the mark. Sin at its root is simply rebellion against God. Oswald Chamber describes sin as in this way: the disposition of sin is not immorality and wrongdoing, but the disposition of self-realization. I am my own God. This disposition may work out in decorous morality or an indecorous immorality, but it has one basis: my claim to my right to myself. And Satan and his demons are constantly trying to distract us and point us to our flesh so that we will sin. It's the reason we have afflictions, including death. All of our problems, all of our suffering are a result of man's rebellion against God. And for those of us who are mothers, this should be very easy for us to grasp. How many times have we watched our children fall when we told them not to climb on the rocks, or to stop drinking the water out of the river mouth only to get sick, and 1,000 other things? Our final question, which we basically have answered, is why is there so much suffering in this world? So first, suffering is the primary means of sanctification. Aside from our flesh and Satan, God uses suffering to mold us and shape us. We are justified by faith through grace, right? We're saved. It's a done deal. But we come to the cross with all of our hurts, all of our hang-ups, and warped perspectives. Sanctification is the process of being purified and being made holy, and we are hard-headed and hard-hearted beings, so it takes a lifetime. All right, now that we have our foundation solid, we know that we're an image bearer of a holy God, and we are made for a plan and a purpose. He's given us special gifts and talents with which to love Him and love others and be salt and light in this world. We're going to move on to the pillars now, the 4 pillars of our health. We need to take care of our body. Our body is His temple. So clearly we need to take care of this body so we can do the things that God has called us for. So the first pillar I'm going to talk about is sleep. Psalm 4:8 says, "In peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety." Optimizing sleep is crucial for both physical and mental health. It seems crazy to say this out loud, but our brain and our bodies are connected. We've acted like mental health and physical health are two separate things, but our mental health impacts our bodies and our physical health impacts our brain or our mental health. Your brain is clearly the crossover for both. Sleep helps repair the body tissues and allows the brain to consolidate memories and clean out toxins that accumulate during the day. Getting a good night's sleep helps with emotional regulation, hormonal regulation, improves problem-solving skills, enhances cognitive function, and a study of elementary school kids with a diagnosis of ADHD revealed that literally half were not getting enough sleep. Their diagnosis went away when they were put to bed at a decent hour every night and not allowed to stay up on screens. The same study was done in adolescents with bipolar disorder and showed the same. Correcting their sleep deprivation cured their symptoms. Half of them literally did not have the diagnosis. They just had sleep deprivation. So here are some of the best strategies to help you get better sleep at night. Create a consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on the weekends. This helps regulate your circadian rhythm, making it easier for you to fall asleep and wake up naturally. Try to aim for a minimum of 7, but better 9 hours of sleep a night, depending on your individual needs. Everybody's a little different. You can optimize your sleep environment by keeping your bedroom dark because light can interfere with melatonin production from your pineal gland in the center of your brain. And melatonin is key for sleep. You can use blackout curtains or an eye mask to block the light. Make your room cool. The optimal setting for the temperature is 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. A cooler room helps your body's core temperature drop, signaling that it's time to sleep. Reduce noise. If you can't control outside noise, consider using earplugs or a white noise machine. Invest in a comfortable mattress and pillows. Make sure your bed supports your preferred sleeping position and is comfortable enough for you to rest well. Third, limit exposure to screens before bed. Avoid blue light because the blue light emitted by phones and tablets and computers and TVs can suppress melatonin production, which makes it harder to fall asleep. Try to avoid screens for at least 60 minutes before bed. Avoid stimulating activities like intense exercise or watching thrilling or stressful content in the hour or two before bed. If you must use devices, consider using blue light blocking glasses or enabling the night mode on your device to reduce the blue light exposure. Fourth, establish a relaxing bedtime routine. So you can develop a wind down routine that helps signal your brain that it's time to relax. This could include reading, listening to calming music, practicing deep breathing, or doing gentle stretches, or even better, meditating on his promises. Fifth, be mindful of food and drink. Avoid large meals right before bedtime because that can interfere with sleeps, and shifts in blood sugar can interfere with sleep cycle, especially in those with diabetes or prediabetes. It's best to finish your eating 3 hours before bedtime. Obviously, limit caffeine. That's a stimulant that can keep people from falling asleep. People always think coffee and energy drinks, but tea and chocolate and certain sodas also have caffeine, and you need to avoid that at least 6 hours before bed. Limit alcohol. Alcohol can help people relax, but it actually disrupts the later stages of sleep, leading to fragmented rest. Make sure you get plenty of water throughout the day, but not a lot right before bed to minimize trips to the bathroom during the night. 6, get exercise regularly. So regular physical activity can actually, especially if it's earlier in the day, can improve your sleep quality. Aim for at least 30 minutes a day, at least 3 hours before bed. Walking, swimming, Pilates are very helpful. 7, manage stress and anxiety. So there are lots of things that you can do. You can meditate on his word, progressive muscle relaxation, mindfulness can help reduce the mental chatter. Journaling has been found to be very helpful. Your brain is an idea maker, but it's not meant to contain the ideas. So oftentimes people will have ideas as they're falling asleep or during brief wakening periods, and then the ideas keep them up. So it's really good to have a journal next to your bed so you can write them down, and that clears your mind and makes it easier for you to fall asleep again. There are sleep apps that offer calming sounds or guided breathing exercises. 8, get sunlight during the day. So exposure to natural light during the day, especially in the morning, helps regulate your circadian rhythm and supports better sleep at night. If you work indoors, try and spend some time outside during the daylight hours. Or if for people who live in, say, Seattle during the winter months or the northern United States, you might need to use a light therapy box. And then only use sleep supplements wisely and if needed. So melatonin can help if you have trouble falling asleep, especially if you're traveling or adjusting to a new time zone. Magnesium and chamomile have also been shown to promote relaxation and may improve sleep quality for some. Important to know that the type of magnesium is important here. Some are used for laxatives and some are used to calm your muscles in your brain, so you make sure you use the right one. And finally, napping. Avoid napping late in the day. So if you try long or late naps can interfere with your ability to fall asleep at night. You can use sleep trackers. A lot of Apple Watches or the Oura Ring does track your sleep, and then you can see what you did the day before that either was helpful to your sleep or detrimental to your sleep that night. Okay, on to exercise, our second pillar. 1 Timothy 4:8 says, "For physical training is of some value, but godliness, or spiritual training, is of value in everything and in every way, since it holds promise for the present life and for the life to come." So exercise, this is so exciting. We all know that exercise is good for our bodies, but did you know it is just as good or even better for our brains? In today's technology-driven, screen-in world, it is easy to forget that we are born movers and we've engineered movement right out of our lives. The sedentary character of modern life is a disruption of our nature, and it poses one of the biggest threats to our continued survival. What's even more disturbing, and what virtually no one recognizes, is that inactivity is killing our brains too. It's literally shriveling them. So we now know that the brain is flexible or plastic in the parlance of neuroscientists, more like Play-Doh than porcelain, and it's adaptable. And it can be molded by input as much as the same way as a muscle can be sculpted by lifting barbells. The more you use it, the more flexible it becomes. Exercise primes the brain to learn by increasing blood flow, oxygen, and releasing brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Researchers found that if they sprinkled BDNF onto neurons in a petri dish, the cells automatically sprouted new branches, producing the same structural growth required for learning. Think of BDNF as like Miracle-Gro for the brain. So it's not surprising that further studies showed that students who go for a mile run in the gym first thing in the morning are actually more prepared to learn than in their other classes. Their senses are heightened, their moods are improved, they're less fidgety and tense, and they feel more motivated and invigorated. Their school performance in one study went from average or below average to superior. And the same goes for adults in the classroom of life. As far as our mood is concerned, about 80% of the signaling in the brain is carried out by two neurotransmitters that balance each other's effect, Glutamate stirs up activity to begin the signaling, and gamma aminobutyric acid, or GABA, clamps down on activity. Going for a run is like taking a little bit of Prozac and a little bit of Ritalin, according to one researcher, because like the drugs, it elevates GABA, dopamine, and serotonin, all feel-good hormones. It's a handy metaphor to get the point across. Stress. Physical activity lowers cortisol and other stress hormones, making it particularly useful for managing chronic stress and improving resilience. Other studies show that exercise reduces the incidence of dementia. It just goes on and on. So I just want to encourage everyone, if this is something that's hard for you, start with walking 3 days a week. You can do it. All right, our third pillar is nutrition. I think we've been fairly nutrition. Okay, on to our fourth and final pillar, social connection. This is so interesting. There's a lot of research that shows that social connection can help people live longer and healthier lives. Being socially disconnected, for example, is associated with a higher risk of illness, including heart disease, stroke, anxiety, depression, and dementia. Loneliness and social isolation have been shown to increase the risk for premature death by 26 and 29% respectively. On the other hand, people who engage in pro-social behaviors, defined as behaviors intended to help or benefit others, such as sharing or volunteering or making a charitable donation, tend to enjoy better health themselves. For example, the Baltimore Experience trial showed a large benefits for volunteers of the older adults. They found that seniors who spent 15 hours a week tutoring and mentoring young children in public schools experienced improvements in both their cognitive and physical health, including better memory, increased mobility, and strength. Frequent volunteers had significantly reduced mortality compared to non-volunteers. This association was greatest for those who frequently also visited with friends or attended religious services. The primary researcher, Dr. Laura Kubzansky, at Harvard Chan School, said, "One of the most surprising findings in the literature has been that these acts benefit the giver as much as, if not more than, the receiver." Wow. I love it when science, quote, discovers the health benefits of what Jesus commands. He knew all along what we needed. All right, now it's time to put the roof on our temple. So how do we build a healthy life? It's not what your doctor may tell you. Lose weight, eat less fat. It's not what your therapist may tell you. Work through your trauma. Don't get me wrong, these things in and of themselves aren't bad. It's just that we have a tendency to hyper-focus on the types of things to the point that we ignore the big picture, our overall health. Worse, we run the risk of actually making people worse by starving themselves or re-traumatizing them by rehashing old traumas repeatedly. God has a better plan. He's always had a better plan. Granted, my temple analogy is still more simple than the beautiful, intricate way God has created us. But this is my attempt to distill what the Word says as it pertains to our bodies. A healthy life for a Christian means focusing on the foundation and the 4 pillars. Guess what? I'm giving you permission to throw away your scale. Hyper-focusing on weight has led to all kinds of problems, from yo-yo dieting to surgeries that frequently fail and make Big Pharma lots of money on weight loss drugs. If you'd like to follow numbers, and a lot of us do, but you certainly don't have to, I would like to propose a better measure of overall health. It's called the HRV. HRV stands for heart rate variability. What heart rate variability is? The beat to beat difference. So we don't like our heart is not like a metronome. There are variations in our heartbeats. We can actually physically measure how well we're doing in all 4 pillars together with HRV. It is a direct measure of our resilience or our ability to move from fight or flight or distress into rest and relaxation or joy. I want to say that again. It is a direct measure of our resilience, our ability to move from distress back into joy. A low HRV means that we are stressed, stuck in fight or flight, and likely in poor physical health. It's an indicator that maybe our foundation or one of our pillars is crumbling. A higher HRV, on the other hand, is indicative of lower stress or ability to move through stressful situations and get back into rest and relaxation and joy, and therefore overall health. Researchers have actually tied improve HRV, or high for age, HRV, to longevity. Here's why. Researchers believe that 70 to 90% of human disease is related to the activation of the stress system. Stress has been implicated as a primary causative factor in high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, digestive problems such as irritable bowel, mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, insomnia, addiction, headaches, muscle aches, immune system problems, leading to infections and autoimmune disorders and memory problems. Stress is simply the body's reaction to a challenge or change. Our subconscious nervous system is what we call the autonomic nervous system. It's made up of the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches that move us from what we call fight or flight into rest and relaxation and back again. It regulates our heart rate, our blood pressure, our respiratory rate, our gut motility, and all the minute details of our physiology that allow our bodies to move and interact with the world seamlessly. We now know that stress triggers cortisol, and if chronic, meaning we spend too long in this fight or flight, a host of inflammatory neurons are released in our bodies. These inflammatory hormones lead to the breakdown of DNA, therefore impacting every cell in our bodies. It manifests in us differently because we have different genetics, but stress has the same basic effect: disease. Ultimately, it ages our body. And guess what? Improvement in any one of these parts, any one of these pillars, but especially the foundation, will improve your overall health. Studies show that you can have the biggest impact on your HRV, therefore your overall health, by making small changes in your weakest pillar or foundation, if that's the weakest. So, if you are so inclined, you can get devices that come with an app like Apple Watches, Garmin Watches, Oura Ring, or Whoop, which is a wrist strap that will measure your physical activity, your sleep quality, and most importantly, your HRV. Because sometimes seeing numbers and the impact of changing our diet or sleep patterns on those numbers, knowing they're tied to our overall health and longevity, are really encouraging and motivating. That's because sometimes those numbers change before we actually feel the change. So, in summary, I would like each person to identify their weakest pillar, because again, making the smallest change in your weakest pillar will have the biggest impact on your life. So if exercise is your weakest pillar, I would encourage you to start just by walking 30 minutes at least 3 times a week. Once you do that, bump it up to 4 or 5 times a week. Once you're consistent at that, maybe you'll start jogging and walking. Start slow, be gracious to yourself, but just do it. If nutrition is your weakest link, identify the one food item or drink that is the worst and cut it out. I met a man who lost 250 pounds and all he did was cut out white rice. So some of us have a food item that we overindulge in. Could be soda. I know I've heard of people that will drink a 6-pack or a 12-pack of soda every day. Just cutting that out could have a profound impact on your health. If it's sleep, guard your sleep. Get yourself on a schedule. Do the things that I mentioned in that under that pillar. And if it's social connection, get involved in your church. Churches are the body of Christ, and you're needed. Get into a small group. If this is really hard for you, the first thing I would recommend is getting into the Word every single day. It will change your life. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at drginny@cultivatementalhealth.com. Have a blessed day.